Hello, we're here at our Karno showcase event. I'm joined by Andrus, who's been a big supporter of Hyliion over the years, is the founder of the Hyliion Discord community. And we invited you to come join us for this event to be able to share a little bit more of what's going on here at Hyliion with the retail investor community and for you to get a firsthand view of all that's happening at Hyliion. So I know the community has submitted some questions that we're going to run through today, so I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for this invitation. It's been amazing. And yeah, let's get into it. So the first question is, can you talk about how fast the machines are? How many of the machines are needed to make Karnos for this and next year's anticipated volumes?
Sure. So additive manufacturing is really an unlock to the technology, right? The Karno generator, based off of like Stirling engine technology, it's not brand new. These type of engines have been around for over a century, but what we've done is we've really taken latest and greatest tech, combined it, and made the Karno. So one of those major unlocks is using additive, because we can make parts that conventional manufacturing just never could have made. And that allows us for much better efficiencies, better heat exchange. So thus, one of the big questions is, well, how many of these additive machines do you need? Is it even feasible? And for anyone listening in, people think of additive manufacturing as like, oh, let me make this little trinket, and it takes a ton of hours to make a small little part. That additive has come a major way from where it was initially about 10 years ago. And we're at a point now that aviation, healthcare widely use additive, automotive's just starting to use additive. So for us, we are still working through exact throughputs per machine. Now, we have a good idea of it. We have built the cost models. We see it's economical in order to do it. The reason we're not giving an exact number is there are parameters that we can change, right? So which generation of machine? We're talking about at this event how there's a next generation of machine from GE that we're just starting to take delivery of here this year. That increases the throughput. There's how much power do we use out of the laser in order to melt the metal. There's how fast you lay powder down. All these things change how many parts you can make. So as we're in the R&D phase, we're more running these machines on the conservative end. And then as we get into production, we'll continue to push those bounds. For instance, right now we're one of the pieces we're making it at like 200 watts out of the laser. Lasers are capable of 1,000 watts, and there's even talks about lasers having more capability than that. So as you increase that, I mean, that could be a 5x in speed increase, right? So that's where we have confidence it's economical as to where it is today, and then we see even cost down opportunities as we go forward.
Awesome, thank you. The second question would be, are there any Karno generators that have been operating continuously for over 1,000 or 2,000 hours, and what has been their incident history over time?
Yeah. So it's a yes and no answer to that one. So there has not been a single generator just running continuous, but there have been hundreds, and I believe into the thousands of hours that have been running in different tests and different components being run. So it's well tested out in terms of, this technology initially started over 5 years ago within GE, and then Hyliion acquired it. We've then put a lot of hours in running in it, but there's not a single gen set that has just been continuous run for 2,000 hours. That is what we're working towards, though, right? You'll see that we've got the alpha generators that are on the dyno right now, and then we're this year releasing the beta version of the generator. Goes up to 200 kilowatts of power output, and that is what we're envisioning is the production design. That's what we'll start delivering to customers later this year, and that's the one where our plan is we're going to have one of them just running at this facility continuously and have more hours on that than any of the customer units that are out in the field.
Awesome. And this kind of leads into the next question, which is, when will the beta unit start testing, and whether we can expect to see data from this testing?
Yeah. So beta units will start testing in the middle of this year. And where we're at right now, just for anyone watching, is alpha is very similar in design in terms of the shape of it, the architecture of it. You might have seen, if not, we'll look at right after this. There's another version of the Karno actually in the room right next to us, which was like the very early iteration of the design. You'll see what that looks like versus what you see here today. Totally different in terms of architecture. So Alpha to beta, though, is very similar in architecture. We've just really found ways to increase the efficiency, increase the power density of it. And so in terms of results, yes, as we get units out with customers, the goal would be we'll be able to start showcasing some of those results. Some we've already started showcasing, like on the last earnings call, we talked about, we did some testing with flare gas. We started putting some of those emissions numbers out there as to how much cleaner the Karno generator was than like tier 4 carb emissions.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you. Do you have a rough time frame for when the first Karno specifications sheet may become available? So like if you go to other generator companies online, you can get the specification sheet available for customers.
Yeah, so it's something we are sharing with customers under NDAs. So we have it made out. We're sharing it with them. In order to get those orders, the LOIs in place. It's something we'll consider looking at actually just posting it on the site. It's just something we kind of have the target customers that we're going after, and that's been our focus to really get the information in front of them. But we can explore also looking at just putting it out online as well.
Yeah, that would be great, because then it would help us speak to other people online and tell them how much better Karno is. When can we see the first mobile truck charger for BEV Class 8 trucks on location to charge it like a truck or EV?
Sure. So you actually might see, if you look out the window right over there, there's a trailer that actually has a EV charger on it back in the corner. So that we're going to...
Is it that green package?
Right behind that. So it's a big Tex trailer, if you see that. And then there's a EV charging pedestal on the back of that trailer.
Okay.
So the plan with that would be, we can hook the Karno generator into that EV charger and then use that to fast charge vehicles. In terms of the actual trailer integration, we more see that as things that others are going to take on. Like, so we had announced GTL Leasing, or GT Leasing is a customer. They've signed an LOI with us. They're actually going to do the integration onto their trailer. So similarly, that's a different customer's trailer actually that will be supplying the Karno generator, but then it'll get integrated into that EV charger. So EV charging is one that is definitely on the target for this year to start proving out.
For this year. Awesome. Could you talk about the Libertine and Hyliion relationship? The question is, what is the current state of the relationship between Hyliion and Libertine, and what does Libertine bring to the table, and whether the Karno that you'll be showcasing tomorrow has the Libertine piston or the Hyliion in-house production design?
Sure. So as I think we've previously shared that we are going to be moving away from the Libertine linear motor part of the generator. So just a little background for anyone who's not familiar with that. So the genset is comprised of the center section, which is the electric motor that has the rod moving back and forth, and that's producing electricity. That part we had sourced from Libertine, and then you put the cooler, the heater, the reactor, build those out on either side of it. Those were always Hyliion's components as you built outwards. What we've actually decided to do for the beta version of the Karno is we've also taken over the linear electric motor part of the design and made that a Hyliion proprietary design as well. So as we move the technology from alpha to beta, that's where we'll move away from the Libertine linear motor, move to actually our own in-house linear electric motor.
Amazing. Thank you.
The chief engineer that's running that one sits right at that desk there. So
okay, awesome. Will Hyliion continue to be Capex light as they bring Karno to scale?
Yeah. So in terms of overall business model, we in the past have expressed we want to stay capital light. We want to try to do that as much as we can with this as well. difference is that buying additive machines, that is part of this business model. We have looked at, are there ways to contract manufacture it to use others to actually produce the components? That's on the table, but we've also said that we are going to start building out our own manufacturing as well. So that's where we're differing some from that capital light. The difference is that this is customary equipment that is used in other industries as well. And so the ability to go out and look for equipment financiers, we think is pretty strong. So, at this stage today, we are just using the capital we have on our balance sheet to buy this equipment, but we're also looking at, can we bring in financing partners, or could we even look at government grant opportunities or financing opportunities in order to buy these machines? And then the other aspect is contract manufacturers that maybe already own the machines or would want to procure the machines and do the printing for us. So I'd say at this stage, we are looking at all options, right? Long term, we don't see the right path as just using cash on our balance sheet to fully procure the machines. But if we can get attractive financing terms in place, that's a pretty strong option for it.
Okay, and that kind of leads into another question, whether you have applied for any government grants already.
Yeah, so we have numerous things kind of in the works on the government side. So one is IRA, which we had announced on the last earnings call, and this wasn't necessarily something we applied for, but we worked in the background to ensure that the Karno generator would qualify under the IRA for the 30% tax credit, and then since it's domestic content, we actually get an additional 10% on top of that. So up to 40% tax credit for the Karno. Now, the rules around that for 2024 are established, locked in. We have a high confidence we qualify for that. As we go into 2025, the government has not yet fully laid out all of their specs for it. So from what we've seen thus far, we do see ways that we will qualify for the IRA going forward as well. But we can't obviously say that we do until the government releases their exact specs. So that is underway. And then we are also exploring other opportunities like, as I mentioned, equipment financing opportunities or grant opportunities, as well as I'm sure you've seen the Office of Naval Research. We've done some joint communications with them as well. So more to come on that in terms of, we do see the Karno generator being a great fit for marine applications, really driven by a lot of characteristics, but one, the fuel flexibility. So on some of these larger vessels, they'll actually mix the diesel fuel with salt water for ballast in the vessel, and so that contaminates the diesel fuel. Since the Karno is so flexible on fuel, we can actually use contaminated fuel through the Karno. So just some of these unlocks are a really good fit for the marine application.
Yeah, I imagine it's also really good for sort of ground transportation where you need to be able to run on any kind of type of fuel you have available at that point, like if you're in a military kind of scenario, I imagine.
Yeah, it's one that we see a lot of logic to, like military bases, right, where you could use diesel, you could use propane. If jet fuel is available, it can run on that as well, right? It really just gives you flexibility.
Amazing. So the Diamondback well in the Permian test, I understand it was done where the gas was taken from the well to then test at the facility, right? So the question is, when is a test at an actual Diamondback well in the Permian plant, like gas right off the dryer on the well being fed straight into the combustion chamber, if you kind of plan to test something like that?
So the fuel that we tested, we had sourced that through Detmar Logistics, right? We've announced that Detmar is going to be one of the early customers. So Detmar went and got us Permian Basin gas. We then took it here to this facility. We ran it through the reactor, tested it, and it made sure that it could produce the heat levels needed in order to run the Karno, as well as we talked about, make sure that we could hit those low emissions levels. Oil and gas is definitely a strong focus for us, probably one that, if not late this year, would then be early next year, but is going to be one of those early deployments.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Sov on Discord not long ago posted about the SatNav, I think it was called. Basically a satellite that goes into space to monitor the
methane leaks.
The methane leaks, and then you can see every single well. So I think that kind of should encourage them to try and sort that problem out.
Yeah, and for these operators, it's basically wasted gas, right? If you're flaring it, then you're not getting any benefit out of the gas, or if it's just leaking into the atmosphere, that's even worse. So now if you could actually take it and produce electricity off of it, you're basically using a free fuel almost.
Yeah. How does Hyliion plan to spread the word and advertise their product to reach scale volume? And do you have any projections for the volumes going forward?
Yeah. So, pretty organic approach of right now, through either relationships we've already had or through conferences we've been to, we have a great list of potential customers already in place. And, we're sharing the spec sheet with them. We're getting them educated on the technology. We're getting, the name out there. What we've even found is then, you start engaging with one of them, then they go into, their knowledge of who's in the space and who could potentially use it, and have made introductions for us. Like I was just on a call yesterday that came from someone who has signed a customer agreement with us. We haven't announced them at this stage yet, but signed a customer agreement. Then they connected us with someone else, and then had a call with them yesterday, and they're like, "Hey, this is perfect for the application that they're doing." And their space is dairy farms. They have methane coming off of dairy farms, and we could use that as the fuel to produce electricity. So at this stage, it's kind of more of a targeted approach as opposed to shotgun, where we want to really go after which markets does this make the most sense, which has the best ROI economics, and get the units deployed out in those areas first, and then use those as examples of how the Karno can work to then continue to scale volume. Like, right now where we're at with the cost of the system, the technology, if you had a customer that buys a diesel generator today purely for backup power and they run it for 2 hours a year when the grid goes down, it's not economical for that person to switch to a Karno for that same application. But if you had a person who's running a generator pretty consistently many hours a year, then that is economical to switch to a Karno. Or if you can find someone that can't use conventional gensets and is looking at other technologies like fuel cells, then that's where we see Karno being even a stronger fit, right? So that's where we want to make sure our marketing and our targeted approach is going after those applications, as opposed to more of like a standby emergency power at this stage. Now, that doesn't mean that eventually, as we scale our volumes and bring our costs down, and as emission regulations become stricter, that doesn't mean eventually we can't go after emergency backup power. It's just not the right fit for early units that we're getting out there.
Okay, thank you. When can we expect to hear more about other LOIs sort of being reviewed, or the ones you have signed already, letters of interest?
So it's a mix of, as we're engaging with these customers, some of them are open and eager to announce it publicly and discuss it. Others are saying, hey, we want to actually get a unit deployed. We want to see the results of it. And then assuming that's successful, then we'll go ahead and do joint communication. So it's kind of a customer by customer side of situation. And as customers are saying, yes, they're open to doing a joint communication, then we'll put the press release out there. But in terms of the volume for this year, 2024, we are in good shape. We have the parties lined up that we're going to be shipping units to. And as we go into 2025, we're already growing backlog there. So yeah, we have good momentum going there. It's just some of them want us to actually showcase the product first before announcing it publicly.
Awesome, thank you. In the latest 10Q, you guys said that in a period of 3 to 4 years, the output of 3D printing machines is expected to increase by a factor of 10 compared to current outputs. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to touch base on how realistic this projection is, and do GE and other vendors have in their pipelines new machines that are in line with these outputs?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, GE is one of the leading producers of additive machines. There are other companies that are making similar machines as well. So we've got a great relationship with GE. As you know, that's where the technology came from. Our intent is continue using those GE machines, but obviously if someone else has a better technology or better costs, we will explore that. We see high confidence in kind of the speed of these machines continuing to increase, and reason being, we mentioned it a little earlier about you can increase the laser output, you can increase the speed at which you're laying down the powder. You can add more lasers to the machines as well. You'll see, some machines we have only have 1 or 2 lasers. Other machines have 4 lasers on them, right? So if you double the amount of lasers, that is a 50% or 100% increase in speed, right? There's a next evolution of printers coming out where you can use a single layer and actually print an entire image at once. That's where we see the real speed breakthrough. This technology is already being tested and is in the lab kind of being showcased, and that's where we envision in the next handful of years here it actually being released commercially, and then you see that significant increase in speed. Even with where we're at today, though, on printer technology, it is economical to do this. Now, it might not be economical to go after like standby applications or emergency power, like I mentioned, but it is economical to compete against other alternative fuel generator solutions, or if you're, in a heavy use of the genset for kind of more prime power applications, that's where even additive speeds today, you can make an economical product.
I see. So on Discord, there was sort of a big conversation about combined heat and power systems that power entire office parks and industrial buildings. And I was wondering if you guys have considered whether Karno could sort of do that role.
Yeah. So we can definitely provide the electricity for that role. And then in the combined heat and power, what that is really it's using the waste heat that we would produce as a way to either provide like hot water to a facility, and then or another application is actually it's one we're looking at here in Cincinnati. It's using the waste heat to actually like power wash bays for vehicles. So if you have excess heat, there are some industries that need that or could use it. And so the initial Karno generator is actually already designed to be able to offer combined heat and power. And so we'll be able to provide the electricity and provide heat. And the way it works is basically the coolant lines, the glycol coolant lines that we have that go through the generator, they can either bring that heat into a radiator system and expel it out into the atmosphere, or you can run it through a heat exchanger and provide that heat into a facility.
Yeah, so that's how usually heat and power, combined heat and power systems work. But from what my understanding is that they're really big, like they're usually very, very big turbines. I was wondering if you looked into how that size compares to like a 4-pack Karno generator.
Sure. So general rule of thumb is if you're going to get 200 kilowatts of electrical output, you're going to have around a little bit less, but around 200 kilowatts of heat output as well. And that's purely driven from the standpoint of, since we have a 50% electrical efficiency, the other 50% is going to heat. Now, I say it's close to 50%. It's not exact because we're using some of it for running fans, running pumps, compressors, those sort of things, blowers in the system. So you're basically going to have a 1-for-1, though. If you produce 200 kilowatts of electricity, you'll have close to 200 kilowatts of heat. And then if you stack up the Karnos, so if you did 5 of them stacked together, then you'll have 1 megawatt of electric output and 1 megawatt of heat output.
Awesome, thank you. Will Hyliion provide a subscription, monitoring, and maintenance service for the maintenance for Karno?
Yeah, so we do have cellular connectivity to the device. So as we have units out in the field, we'll be able to get that data back. In terms of exact subscription models, and are there opportunities for like a recurring revenue sort of a model, it's absolutely something we're considering, we're looking at, exploring. It's not something we've put in place or set up yet. Really driven from the fact of the goal today is let's just get these initial units out into customers' hands and prove that the actual generating part of, generating electricity part of the technology works.
Thank you. From a safety standpoint, does the Karno design take into consideration tampering or theft once the Karno is deployed in a charging?
Yeah, so we do have locking mechanisms on the actual enclosure, and so and it gets bolted down to the ground is the prime design. So you'd have like a concrete slab, and then the Karno would get bolted down, and then it is heavy as well, right? So I don't envision someone's really going to come in and steal a whole Karno. Our concern would more be to someone try to take the service panels off and get access to the genset, and we've designed it where those are designed to be tamper proof.
Thank you. Let's see what else is here. Would it be possible to get more regular communications on Karno progress, sharing any new steps of progress being made more on a consistent basis?
Sure. So I think as we get into actually getting these units out into customers' hands, as those customers are saying, yes, we can jointly communicate what we're doing together, that's where we'll see more consistent communication pick up. We're trying to do events like what we're here doing today, where we're bringing people in, as you're going to see. I mean, we've got customers coming in, we've got partners coming in, and working together to really showcase how the technology works with them. And obviously, being able to do this with the Discord community, we'll continue to do things like this. And then as we start these customer deployments, that's where we're going to be pushing the customers on, can we jointly communicate this?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, that were all of the questions
Terrific.
I have. And thank you so much.
No, thank you for making the trip over here, first off. Yeah. And thank you to the community for all the questions and for being a part of this journey with us.
Awesome.